Hello everyone, Stormy One here. Today we'll be talking about the potential for some severe weather tomorrow. We're going to get started with a watch warning advisory display across the country. It's pretty active for France off to the west. We got a big severe weather outbreak that stretches from northeastern Arkansas, southern Iowa, all the way down into northern Texas out there. Got quite a few severe thunderstorm warnings. It even had a couple of tornadoes today as well. Locally in Kentucky, we actually have a flood watch that extends from most of eastern Kentucky down towards south central Kentucky. It does include Bowling Green. It also includes, unfortunately, Somerset and London, all the way out towards Pikeville and Ashland. It does not include Lexington. Lexington is not included. It also does not include from McCreary County all the way over to Harlan County out there as well, and even back towards Monticello. Monticello is also not included. That's Wayne County. Wayne County all the way to Harlan County, that strip of counties are not included in the flood watch. And the reason why these areas here are in the flood watch is because they've received quite a bit of rain from back on Friday. A lot of these areas picked up 2 to 4 inches of rain, even 4+ inches of rain for some areas in eastern Kentucky. So it kind of makes sense to go with a flood watch with the possibility for some training storms over some of the same areas that can lead to renewed flooding issues out there. And you're talking about during 1 to 3 inches across most of the state. As you can see here from the Weather Prediction Center for the next 2 days out there, once again, in general, 1 to 3 inches. May have to give or take a little bit out there, but it's generally a 1 to 3 inch rainfall event out there. But it can still lead to some local flooding issues, especially areas in the flood watch. So here's the FC outlook for today. Got a moderate risk for severe weather for parts of central and eastern Oklahoma, northwestern Arkansas, southeastern Kansas, into southwestern Missouri. There is a pretty elevated tornado risk out there. Got a 15% hatch area. That's actually the same tornado risk level we seen back on Friday. Damage winds could be some hurricane force wind gusts and even some very large hail. So pretty similar threats to what we saw back on Friday, but this time it's out in Oklahoma. More traditional tornado alley out there. We do have a slight risk that's out for far western Kentucky. Basically from Bower County all the way down towards Fulton County. That little string of counties right there is in the slight risk. Parts of south central and all of western Kentucky is in the marginal risk. This is basically for later tonight here. Some of these storms can be strong, severe, moving to western Kentucky, but kind of weaken as you kind of go through the morning hours tomorrow. And there's even a low-end tornado risk out there as well, especially for areas in the slight risk area. There's a 5% chance for an isolated tornado out there as well. And if we move on to SPC outlook for tomorrow, there is an enhanced risk for severe weather for northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, northwestern Georgia, most of Tennessee, and including the southern half of Kentucky. And here's a closer view of that enhanced risk. It does include places like Paducah, Madisonville. It also stretches all the way up towards, Springfield, Danville, Harrodsburg, Richmond, and then kind of extends down into southeast central Kentucky all the way down towards Breathitt County, and it goes down to sections of Harlan County. And unfortunately includes the areas that was hit hard back on last Friday, Bowling Green, and of course Somerset into London as well are also included in the enhanced risk. If we move on to the tornado risk, the SPC does have the possibility for tornadoes across the entire state. Even the chance for strong tornadoes from London, Corbin, Williamsburg, and points to the west. And I honestly kind of disagree with that. Disagree with the strong tornado risk here for tomorrow, and I'll explain why in a few moments. But damage winds is going to be the primary threat here. Areas in enhanced risk has the better opportunity to see some damage winds, especially from areas in the 45% chance, which is in pink, from Bowling Green out towards Barberville, Manchester, even down into Williamsburg out there. And also includes, once again, Somerset, London, and Corbin over there too. And there could be some instances of large hail, primary west of I-75 out there. So let's check out the latest HRRR model run here. You can see here it's a very messy mode off to our west. A lot of strong severe storms out there. Eventually it should congeal into kind of this big mass of some showers and thunderstorms moving to western Kentucky. Some of these storms could be on the strong side. I think the main hazard is really going to be strong wind gusts and maybe some hail out there. And as we go through Tuesday morning here, we're kind of get these waves of some showers and thunderstorms across most of the state here. And it's uncertain of how long these showers and storms are really going to linger out there. And the HRRR model is even one that sped out the possibility for a cluster of thunderstorms that may be ongoing across western Tennessee into middle Tennessee and then kind of move up into south central Kentucky. Now, if the HRRR model is correct here, you will notice earlier in the run here, parts of south central, southeastern Kentucky doesn't really see a lot of activity in the morning, which means that the atmosphere may be able to get unstable out ahead of this next wave here, which if we look into Mixed-Layer Cape out there, you can actually see here Mixed-Layer Cape does get up to 1,000 joules per kilogram or more out there, where those areas did not really see a lot of activity in the morning hours out there. And you also notice here there's an actual warm front that's going to be in place here, and this is something I talked about here, this warm front out here that may extend from parts of southern Indiana through Louisville, through the Bluegrass region, down along the Mountain Parkway into eastern Kentucky here. Along this warm front here, this is where wind shear is expected to be very non-directional. If you don't know what non-directional shear is, what it is you get basically a wind change in direction with height. So let's say at the surface, winds are moving out of south. And then when you go 2,500 feet above, up in the atmosphere, it's off to the southwest. Then you go, let's say about 10,000 feet. It's due west. So winds change direction with height as you go up in the atmosphere. Directional shear, which what looks to be the dominant type of shear across most of the state, is basically going at the same direction as you go up in the atmosphere. And that's, once again, dominant across most of the state, indicated by most of the models here. The more unidirectional shear thread looks to be along the warm front, which is pretty typical to see that, having non-directional shear out there. And we can get a forecast sounding out there. If we go up towards Richmond here, I can show you guys here what non-directional shear looks like on a forecast sounding. And you'll be able to see it right there, those wind bars. Wind bars at the surface are actually almost due east, but not too far up. As you go up in the atmosphere, it all of a sudden goes out to the southwest. That's very non-directional shear out there, and this tends to lead to higher wind shear parameters, especially in the lower levels. SRH is 150 plus. You got a nice little holograph out there. You do have some instability to work with, and even some 3 cape and some stronger surface-based lap rates as well. So with this type of environment, if the HRRR model is correct, this can be favorable for all modes of severe weather, including the possibility for a couple tornadoes. Now, in my opinion, this doesn't really be supportive for strong tornadoes, as the SPC highlights out there. So when I X this off here, I can show you guys kind of away from the warm front, and you'd be able to see here winds are very directional here. There's actually some non-directional shear here. Winds of the surface are kind of out of the south-southwest, but they kind of turn more to the southwest to go up to the atmosphere, but that's still not really much change of direction with height. And even when you look into those wind shear parameters here in lower levels, it's not really all that impressive here. Even the holograph is not all that impressed for the tornado risk on this sounding here. Though there is quite a bit of instability, though I think it's going to be overdone. I don't think we're going to see 3,000 cape tomorrow out there. If you were to ask me, probably a more realistic number if we do destabilize, it's probably going to be anywhere from 1,000 to maybe a little over 1,500 out there. I think that's more realistic for tomorrow. Let's see here. If we were to look into the supercell composite here, this kind of gives you the combination of wind shear and instability, and you can clearly see here where the greatest potential for supercells is, and it's right along the warm front, right in here. But you can kind of see here, even farther to the south here, the numbers are generally lower here. I know you see higher numbers out here, but those are contaminated numbers here, and that tends to not be accurate out there. These numbers up here are a little bit more accurate here. So your more elevated supercell composite parameter numbers will be along the warm front. And if you want to compare to the numbers back to last Friday, so last Friday supercell composite parameters were up as high as 20 to 30, which is actually extremely high. This event, you're looking to max out as 7 or 8. Much lower compared to Tuesday or Friday. So that kind of gives you an idea that tomorrow's setup isn't going to be as significant as Friday. Potential is a lot lower. We don't have as much storm fuel, but we also don't have as much wind energy either. So it's not going to be as bad as what happened back on Friday. I can guarantee you that. But you can see here out ahead that line of thunderstorms, you got a little bit of a favorable environment that can support some strong severe storms. If we get one more sounding out there, let's go out towards Manchester. And you can see here wind shear parameters are not all that impressive. They are just strong enough to support some strong severe storms. The main hazard will probably be strong to damage winds. Could be some hail. A quick spin of tornado cannot be ruled out. Out ahead of this line here, which if we go back to reflectivity here, you can kind of see that little cluster of some strong serious storms move across south central and southeastern Kentucky. At the same time, we got some new development off back to our west, back towards western Kentucky, and that's where the atmosphere, I think, will actually recover a little bit west of I-65 out there. We got a little bit of a stronger elevated mix layer in western Kentucky, so I think the atmosphere will be able to recover a little bit. But when it gets east of I-65, you'll notice here how the storms just fall apart. The main reason why they fall apart is because the atmosphere is not going to be able to recover in central and eastern Kentucky. And I think that's what's going to happen here across central and eastern Kentucky. After that morning wave kind of passes through, or you can say early to mid-afternoon wave, I don't think the atmosphere is going to be able to recover, especially when the elevated mix layer is weak, which if we look into the elevated mix layer from the European model, it's pretty easy to see here the elevated mix layer is a little bit stronger west of I-65 compared to east. If you don't know what the elevated mix layer is, it's basically some dry air particles in the atmosphere. It helps kind of keep the environment a little bit cleaner. It can also help destabilize the atmosphere too. So basically you have a lesser coverage of showers and thunderstorms. If you had a weaker EML, the coverage can be more widespread. So it kind of helps not only limit the coverage, but it can also help to stabilize the atmosphere a little bit better. And you can see here, west of I-65, you got a little bit of a stronger elevated mix layer compared to east here. And usually with a weaker EML, you probably have more cloud cover and even some more showers, which would make things more difficult to recover. So my take is for tomorrow is that I think the enhanced risk is too far to the north, and especially too far to the northeast. I think if you're watching from south central and southeastern Kentucky, I think your main wave is going to be earlier in the day. Late morning into the early, maybe pushing mid-afternoon hours if you're in southeastern Kentucky, will probably be the main show. And I don't think those storms are going to be too bad. I think the main hazard of those is going to be damaging winds, maybe some hail, and a quick spin of tornado cannot be ruled out. Now, if we are able to get an organized storm or supercell along the warm front, then there could be a better opportunity for a tornado out there. Greatest tornado potential, in my opinion, is probably going to be along the warm front. But that's all going to depend on if you can get an organized storm and if you can have the atmosphere be unstable, which still remains a little bit unclear. West of I-65, after the morning wave passes, I think you guys should be able to stabilize more. So I think you'll be able to stabilize just enough for another round of some strong, severe storms. These storms here will be a little bit better. If I were to get some forecast soundings out there real quick. So let's get a forecast sounding. This is supercell composite again, and you can see here, Hermal is not really that aggressive with the atmosphere recovering here. If I were to go down to Murray, Kentucky, you'd be able to see here wind shear parameters are not really all that impressive. And to be honest with you, this does not really support strong tornadoes, in my opinion. It really doesn't. the ML is stronger out there. You got some dry air out there, so that'll be able to help destabilize the atmosphere a little bit better. You got a decent holograph that can support some supercell structures. You got D-Capes actually 932, which would be favorable for damage and winds. Strong surface-based lap rates. Middle lap rates are weak on the weaker side. You got some instability out there. Surface-based Cape 1600, Big Sur Cape about 1000. So you got some instability, and then you look at your wind shear parameters. Low level shears on the weaker side, but you do have stronger upper level shears, so that can support the possibility for some large hail. So based off of the sounding, almost severe weather could be possible. Some strong damage winds, some large hail, and even isolate tornadoes possible. Not supported for strong tornadoes. I don't think we should have a strong tornado risk up here, in my opinion. If I was the SPC for the category of risks, I would keep the enhanced risk down in Tennessee. I would keep the enhanced risk away from Kentucky. If you were to ask me where the better chance for an enhanced risk could be, if the atmosphere does recover a little bit better than expected, then I'll probably keep these areas in the enhanced risk. Probably Bowling Green, and kind of points off to the west. The slight risk area, I think, should include areas generally along and south of the warm front boundary out here, and I think northeastern Kentucky should stay in the March risk. And that is my take. If I was the SPC, that would be my take for tomorrow. And then you get into Wednesday, the low pressure system should move off to the northeast, and there may be the possibility for some pea-sized hail with some storms, mainly in northeastern Kentucky, but I think the main threat would stay up in Ohio, West Virginia, and western Pennsylvania. And then it generally stays cooler, and we should stay mostly dry for your Thursday and into Friday. And then I'll have another update on Memorial Day maybe tomorrow. I'm giving models a little bit more time for Memorial Day weekend because modeling is starting to become a little bit more uncertain of how Memorial Day weekend could go. Some models are wet, some other models are drier. So I'm going to give the models a little bit more time before we go a little bit deeper into it, and I think that's a smart way of doing it. But then again, it is several days out, so it's not a surprise that there is some disagreements for Memorial Day weekend. But we'll have an update on Memorial Day weekend very soon. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification there, miss an upload. If you guys got any questions, put a comment section down below. I'll answer you guys' questions. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.